Thanks for joining us for part 3 of our MTSS series. I'm Judy Teven, Director of Curriculum here at ClassWorks, back with another installment of our MTSS web series. Now, to start off, you saw MTSS in action, right? We had an interview discussing how a successful MTSS program was set up and executed. And then in part 2, we discussed how screening data will help you get everything in place for a successful process. So today, we are going to dive into assigning progress monitoring for students receiving Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. Now, tiers are identified through screening, and intervention is in place now for Tier 2 and Tier 3. Now, it's vital to monitor their progress at the student's performance level. So, what exactly is progress monitoring, and why do we need it? Progress monitoring is a standardized method of formative assessment that tells us how well students are responding to intervention. Progress monitoring is used to assess student progress or performance in those areas in which they were identified by the universal screener, right, as being at risk for failure. You want to identify students who are not making adequate progress in the classroom too, right? And you want to build effective intervention programs for those students. So why do we need it? Students learn more quickly because they're receiving more appropriate instruction. Teachers use it to make more informed instructional decisions for those students. And documentation of student progress is available for accountability purposes. And communication improves between families and professionals about student progress. It helps teachers have higher expectations for their students. And as a result, there is a decrease in special education referrals. Now, the first step is to choose a tool. According to the National Center on Intensive Intervention, or NCII, progress monitoring tools should have these characteristics. Probes should be brief. Each assessment is a repeated measure that captures student learning. It should be a measure of age-appropriate outcomes. And finally, it should be reliable, valid, and evidence-based. And just FYI, ClassWorks has been awarded the highest ratings from NCII. Now, CBM is the gold standard accepted methodology for progress monitoring. CBM stands for Curriculum-Based Measurement. Now, there are two types of CBMs. You have global indicators and you have curriculum sampling. Both indicate student progress on the general curriculum and overall effectiveness of the intervention. Now, a global indicator assesses specific abilities or skills that have an overall impact on student outcomes, where curriculum sampling measures the student's understanding of a grade level curriculum. So in order to best accommodate all grades, the ClassWorks model uses both global indicators and curriculum sampling. Now, curriculum sampling uses items related to the on-grade level curriculum and is appropriate for measuring content, concepts, and problem-solving skills. Curriculum sampling is especially effective for older students since they respond differently to intervention. Focusing on growth is the key here and even impacts your dropout rates. Curriculum sampling offers the opportunity to monitor a student's growth within the intervention and see if they're responding to that intervention. ClassWorks curriculum sampling is correlated to the same scaled score as the universal screener. And this keeps data apples to apples for teachers, providing a clear picture of student growth. So use curriculum sampling when your objective is to monitor overall student growth and impact of intervention. You really can never go wrong with this choice. The purpose of progress monitoring is to measure the student's response to the intervention, and curriculum sampling definitely accomplishes this for you. Now, on the other side, sometimes students need their progress monitoring a little bit more skill focused. So global indicators allow teachers to zoom in on one skill area and monitor student growth within that set of skills. So you may choose a skills-based domain-specific probe. If, for instance, students are notably behind in a specific area, and this may be the case for many students right now. Some districts and schools have MTSS guidelines that require a specific area be identified and monitored. So in this case, you may look for a significant area of weakness and then monitor student progress with that specific area using the global indicator. And for our students with disabilities, IEP goals may require a specific area be monitored for documentation. So using skills-based probes provide the documentation that you need to measure the growth and mastery of that IEP goal. So now that you have your progress monitoring tool in place, let's look at putting it into action. Now, CBMs need to be at the student's performance level. Your screening data helps identify this level. If your students are using a ClassWorks assessment, this level is indicated for you in your RTI recommendations report, along with their score, percentile rank, and domain-specific proficiency. So let's look at an example. Lawson here is a 6th grade student who took a ClassWorks assessment. And as you see here, that assessment has indicated his performance level is on 3rd grade level. His intervention has already been put in place as an individualized learning path, or ILP, in ClassWorks, which reflects that level as well. ClassWorks progress monitoring at that level allows careful monitoring of Lawson's response to the intervention and continues to inform his learning path based on results. Now, on the other hand, if you're using another assessment, ClassWorks progress monitoring will default to 1 grade level below the student's assigned grade level. So if your assessment data indicates that a student's performance level is, for instance, 2nd grade, just adjust the level to make sure the student is receiving the appropriate intervention and monitoring. And then you just click Start. Individualized learning driven by your assessment data, right, serves as intervention, while Juan's response to the intervention is measured through ClassWorks progress monitoring. When students log in, they will see progress monitoring CBM probes ready to take. These probes will appear automatically each week. And if you only want a student to take it every other week, just have them skip a week. So what happens now, right? Well, in ClassWorks, assessment data, both screening data and progress monitoring data, drive an individualized instructional plan for each student so that you know that there is a solid intervention ready to go for that student. Progress monitoring is now in place to measure the student's responsiveness to that intervention. So next time, we will look at the intervention itself and discuss instructional best practices to ensure effectiveness of this instruction. So I'll see you then.